Hi guys, so today's video is very personal. I'm going to talk about my IVF journey. I know a lot of women are going through this right now, and I hope this video will bring you a lot of comfort, some tips that might help you, and I want to point out that this video is not a medical video. I'm not going to tell you what you should take or which medicine I think will work for you, but I just want to share my experience because when I went through this whole journey, I was looking for information, and every video I could find of people going through this was very helpful and comforting. So I'm going to start by the beginning and I'm going to share with you everything. So it's 2014, Federico and I got married a year before, and we wanted to take the time to enjoy our newlyweds life. And we did. We traveled, we had a lot of fun, and a year later after the wedding, we were ready to start our own family, and it was something that we were so excited about. 6 months later, nothing happened. I wasn't getting pregnant and I was very worried, and I was also very, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt something was off. And I told Federica, I was like, I know I'm a bit too early. I mean, 6 months is not a long time, but I can sense that something is wrong. And in the medical world, they want you to try for at least a year before you decide to seek the help of a doctor or a professional, at least here in the Netherlands. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but because I felt something was wrong, and I always listened to my guts, like I always listened to that voice inside of me alarming me about something, I decided to call my doctor, and I said, we've been trying for a year. I would love to come over and just to have a chat about what we can do and what the reasons are that we're not pregnant yet. So if you're going through this, I do not have to tell you how much they do before you start a treatment. With me, they checked my blood, they checked Federico's, they had a look at my ovaries, at my uterus. Everything was fine, and that was great. Like, I was so happy that everything was fine. So I thought maybe it's not the right time, or maybe we just, I don't know, nature. I mean, you cannot control these things. But the doctor said, during the surgery that I had, when they checked my ovaries and my uterus, he said I did see a tiny bit of endometriosis, but it was so small, it was so tiny, it could never be the reason why you're not pregnant yet. But I removed it anyway because I don't want you to think that something is in there and it might be the reason. So I just got rid of it, and we just want to make sure that nothing stands you in the way of getting pregnant now, because it's all clear, everything looks good in there, and I was very happy. So we went back home with the idea of, let's go for it. I mean, we're good to go, green light, we're gonna get pregnant now. And unfortunately, 8 months later, nothing happened. We're still not pregnant. So I went back to the doctor and I said, I know you did like an entire check. You checked my blood, you checked my hormonal balance and everything, and ovaries are good, uterus is good, but maybe we're missing something here. But he said, there is nothing I can do for you at this moment. I mean, it's been almost 2 years now and you're not pregnant yet. I would suggest for you to do an IUI. And he gave us an address of a hospital that was specialized in IUI treatments. So we went there and we did everything all over again. Blood check, hormones. They checked Federico, they checked me. My ovaries were still looking good. My uterus was still looking good. The results came back perfectly fine. I was happy about that, but it also made me very insecure, because if everything is good, why aren't we pregnant yet? And I've asked this question over and over again to the doctors, and they said, we have no idea. It can happen. This is something you cannot control. If you're okay, you're okay. And it's maybe the wrong timing. We just don't know. So now we are going to start our IUI journey. And I was starting to take hormones, and it was very painful, very hard. hormone shot change your everything. Your body's changing, your mood is changing all the time. You're insecure. You're wondering all the time if everything is okay in there. And I was shooting myself for 10 days trying to grow the eggs. And here in the Netherlands, they only allow you to have 2 grown eggs before starting the treatment. And every time I would shoot myself with hormones, my body would react heavily to the hormones, and I would grow more than 2 eggs, sometimes 4, sometimes even 8. And because of that, we had to cancel the treatment. And they would give me a pill that I would have to take in, and it would destroy the eggs. I would bleed. And then I would have to recover for a couple of days and then go back to shooting myself again with hormones, trying to grow only 2 eggs, and then, go back again. And then we had 4 eggs again grown, and then we have to cancel the treatment again. So we did this for like 5 times, and it was very annoying because I felt like the doctors didn't know how to give me the right amount of hormones so that we could only grow 2 eggs. And I know it's not easy and everybody is different, but because we were doing this over and over and over and over again, I felt like they were, I don't want to say they're being very lazy about it, but I was coming up with ideas, like maybe if I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they were like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I felt like I was taking control of the treatment, and they were very laid back and very surprised that my eggs were growing so fast and not only just 2. And that was very hard. Every time going back, oh, I'm sorry, too many eggs, here's the pill, go bleed, destroy the eggs, come back, we're going to start all over. And this whole triact, this whole treatment, I think we only had 1 round of IUI. They saw 1 egg that wasn't even fully grown, but because they knew if I would continue shooting myself with hormone, a lot of egg would grow and they have to cancel. And they were afraid of my reaction because I was like, guys, I mean, you've done this before. This is my first time. Like, what is going on here? Why isn't it working? So they decided to do the IUI treatment, and of course it failed because the eggs were not grown enough, and it was just a way of showing me that they tried and it failed. So in all honesty, after months and months of trying to grow 2 eggs and a lot of failed attempts, I lost my faith in the doctors and the team. And I was very honest and open to them about this. I said to them, this is very painful and this is very, very hard. I mean, somehow you guys are not able to give me the right amount and we're failing here. And it's very, very hard for me to keep shooting myself with hormones, grow the eggs that I worked so hard for, and eventually give me a medicine and I would have to take it and destroy what I worked so hard for. Mentally, it was very, very hard. They understood, and this is the way. We have no idea. This is basically what they said. We can try again, but I was like, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do this any longer. So I'm gonna look further for a hospital that might understand how my body works and might help me better. No hard feelings. I wasn't even upset, but I don't want to waste any more time of yours and mine. So we left the hospital, we went somewhere else, and the doctor said there in the new hospital, that was our 3rd hospital, by the way, the doctor said, I think you're a good candidate for IVF because you grow eggs so easily when you shoot hormones. And that's what we want to see when you do IVF. We want as much grown eggs as possible. So I was excited, but I was also a little bit worried because IUI didn't work. The results, every time we do a check, body check, blood check, everything comes back perfectly fine. So I was starting to get worried because what is going on? Why aren't we getting pregnant yet? And no one seems to be able to find anything, and still we're not pregnant. But I was like, okay, if you think IVF is a good way to start, I'll happy to do it if that's the only way out. And the doctor said, yes, for now, that's the only way out because you're not pregnant yet. IUI is very hard because the previous doctors were not able to manage grow only 2 eggs. And I think you're the perfect candidate for IVF. So here we are, years later, we're going to do our first IVF round. I started shooting myself with hormones, and we grew a lot of egg. I grew a lot of eggs, and the doctors called me after the treatment, and they said, good news, you have 12 eggs in both of your ovaries. That's amazing. We're going to take them out, and we're going to see how many embryos we can make out of those 12 eggs. So I was very exciting. I was very hopeful, very excited, very happy. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Days later, they called us and they said, out of the 12 eggs, we were managed to get 9 beautiful, healthy, good-looking embryos. We're going to put 8 of them in the freezer, and we're going to start your first treatment with the first embryo. I was in tears. I was so happy because, 9 embryos, at least one of them should succeed, and I'm going to get pregnant. I mean, this is perfect. So I did the first embryo transfer, and I was so excited that day. We went home. I was very relaxed, and I was like, this is amazing. It can happen now. We can get pregnant now. But unfortunately, weeks later, I found out that the embryo did not survive, and I started the bleeding. But the doctors warned me before the treatment that the first round is not always successful. So I was like, okay, no problem. I still have 8 embryos to go. It's going to be okay. So the second embryo went in, the third embryo goes in, and all 2 of them also fail. And I started asking questions. I said, okay, listen, we sat down with the doctor. I said, okay, listen, something is wrong here. I can sense that. I mean, you're telling me healthy embryos are not surviving the moment you put them inside of me. And you're also telling me my body is healthy. Nothing is wrong. Don't you think something is off here? I mean, of course, the tests, the results came back all good, but I'm not pregnant yet. And the embryos are good. That's what you said. The embryos look good. They're healthy. They're beautiful. So why am I not pregnant yet? And the doctor said, getting pregnant is a luck game. It's like throwing a dice. You need to throw 2 6s. What are the chances of you throwing 2 6s? And I was seriously, I stepped back and I looked at Federico and I said, so you're telling me I've been unlucky all these years because I haven't thrown 2 6s? She said, yeah, basically you've been unlucky because this is your medical report. You're completely healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your partner. You're the perfect match. We researched everything. And I said, what if you didn't research everything? I mean, yes, you have a medical report and you've checked everything. What if I have something that's not on that list? It can be. I mean, everybody is different. And I started to Google, and I came with a list of reasons why people cannot get pregnant. And I showed it to the doctor. I was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Have we checked for this? Have we checked for that? And she was like, we don't have enough research for this. This is something I would not recommend. We're not going to do this. So she was basically declining every idea that I have and every plan that I wanted to see succeed. And that was very disappointing. So we continued the treatment because we still had embryos left. And during the treatment, we found out that my endometriosis was coming back. I asked the doctors, I was like, can this affect the embryo? I mean, it's growing. I have endometriosis. It's growing in there. And we're putting embryos back and they're not surviving. Can that be the reason why I'm not pregnant yet? Do you think it can affect the embryo? And she said, no, absolutely not, because we do not believe that endometriosis can cause a bad environment for the embryo. I wasn't convinced. So I started Googling and I read different stories of 2 sides. One side said you can get pregnant when you have endometriosis, and the other side said, no, you cannot get pregnant when you have endometriosis. So it all depends on your body. And I was stuck. What do I believe? But because we've been doing this for years now and I'm not pregnant yet, maybe I'm with this side. I'm on the side where you cannot get pregnant when you have endometriosis. But the doctors convinced me, no, we're not going to do any surgery. We're going to leave it there. I promise you, the moment you get pregnant, endometriosis would disappear. And I said, yeah, if I can get pregnant. After a couple of failed attempts and I only had 2 embryos left, I said, listen, I'm not going to continue with this. We're not going to continue putting healthy embryos inside of me because they're not surviving. You're seeing this, I'm seeing this. I don't have to be a professional or a doctor to see that something is wrong. I can sense something is wrong. And I begged the doctors at that hospital to do more research. They took blood. After a week of begging them, eventually they took some blood and they looked for thyroid. It was very frustrating because I felt like I had to fight for something no one else was believing in. So they took some blood and they called me later and they said, we found out that you have a thyroid problem. It's working slowly and that can definitely affect getting pregnant. At that moment, I was so frustrated, I was so disappointed, and I said to the doctor, if I didn't push, if I didn't beg you guys for a week to search for more, we would have never found out that my thyroid wasn't okay. I told you so. I said it. I was like, didn't I tell you this? I mean, why didn't you guys do this earlier? She said, well, we're not 100% sure that that's the reason why you're not pregnant yet, but it's good to see a specialist and to take some medicine to make sure that your thyroid is stable. She didn't want to acknowledge what I was talking about, didn't want to acknowledge the fact that they wasted time and didn't want to do any research. But I still had 2 embryos left in the freezer, so I was like, I need to stay there. I need to finish this treatment. Maybe one of the 2 will survive. So I went to the specialist and I was starting to take in medicine for my thyroid. And when they got very stable, I went back to the hospital and we continued the treatment. And unfortunately, the last 2 embryos didn't survive. I realized that, and I told Federico as well, I said, I think we need to leave the country to go somewhere else and do treatments because we're not succeeding here. This is our 3rd hospital. No doctors understanding what's going on. And I'm capable of making good embryos, but I'm not capable of getting pregnant. And they cannot find anything. If you're telling me like my body is not capable of carrying a child, I would know this. I would continue searching for another treatment. But if you continue telling me that I am fine, everything is perfect, but I'm not getting pregnant yet, something is wrong. So I said, I'm going to Google, I'm going to look for hospitals outside the country. I looked for one in Portugal. I looked for one in the States, United States. And I was just about to make an appointment. I've had contacts with some of the doctors in Portugal. And all of a sudden, one day, I found an email from a girl that used to live next to my parents' house back in the days, and she was following my story on Instagram because I was sharing everything with you guys. And she said, Sarah, I've been following your journey, and if I may suggest something, please leave the country and go somewhere else because you will succeed somewhere else. She knew this. And she gave me an address of a hospital in Belgium, and I was very surprised because I was like, is this a sign? I was just looking into hospitals elsewhere, and this girl slides a DM of a doctor and a new hospital outside the country. And it was in Belgium, and I was very happy because that was very close by comparing to the States. So we went to Belgium, and we met with our doctor. She is not working there anymore, unfortunately, but she was a professor who was specialized in everything fertility. IUI, IVF, everything you can think of. And it was such an honor to meet her. I was blown away by her way of thinking and how she explains everything. So much respect for her. So sad that she left the hospital, but I'm very happy with her because she's doing something else she's happy with right now. So we sat down and I explained everything. I showed her my medical file of all the treatment that we've had done in the past. And she pointed out some things that was very hurtful for me. The first thing was that my thyroid was nowhere near good yet. The 9 embryos that I've had put in the past, some of them were very bad and should have never put inside of me because they would have never survived in the first place. And that was very hurtful because the hospital convinced me that I had 9 beautiful, healthy embryos, but the doctor, she looked at them and she was like, no, This one is not good. This one is not good. This one is not good. That was a shock. A big, big shock. She said, here's the plan. I'm going to check everything. I'm going to check everything by blood. And I'll let you know the results. So I went to the assistant, and she was taking some blood, and she said, it's going to be 13 bottles. Are you okay? I said, are you kidding me? Take as much as you want. I mean, this is the first time that I feel you guys are seriously chasing a problem. You're looking for something, just like me. Something I've begged so many doctors before you. Take as much as you want. I have plenty of blood. I don't care. And that was the first time that I had a hospital examine me this good. And I said to Federico on our way home, I said, I feel like we are at the right place. I can sense we are in good hands. I can sense that. It feels so good to have someone taking 13 bottles of blood, because they're going to search for everything. 5 days later, we got a call from a doctor, and she said, can you come over? I have your results. We need to talk. And I told Federico, I said, they found it. They found it. I promise you, they found the problem. We sat down, and the doctor said, okay, here's what we found. You have antibodies, which means your body's attacking the embryos. Endometriosis is still growing, and it definitely affects the embryo because it affects the environment in there. It's not a good environment in there. Your thyroid is nowhere near good. In the previous hospital, they said, they're good now, you can continue. But in Belgium, they have different standards of what they think is good. They are very precise, and they are not afraid of testing more and giving you medicine to see if things work. I think they are more brave, and they dare to try and to see what they can find and whether they will succeed or not. And I love that, because that's exactly how I am. So I had tears in my eyes when the doctor told me what they found. And I said, I'm happy. I'm so happy that you finally found what the problem is. I mean, antibodies. And it's just by blood. They found everything by blood. Something so easily done. So I was sitting there, and she was telling me everything. And there was so much going on inside of my head. Like all the past treatments, everything the previous doctor said, comparing to what she's saying. Antibodies, thyroid problems, endometriosis, bad embryos, what were put back in me. All of these things. Of course, I couldn't get pregnant. And all these years, they were telling me, I'm okay, I'm healthy, I'm good. Are you kidding me? I was emotional. I said to the doctor, I said to her, I'm so happy you found the problem. But the question is, can I get pregnant? She said, we're going to start with the IVF. We're going to see how everything goes, how much eggs you can grow. So here are the hormones, go home, shoot yourself. Something I was very familiar with after all these years. I was like, I got it, don't worry. Easy peasy. I went home. I started shooting myself with hormone, went back to the hospital. They took the eggs out, and they called us later that day, and they said, so you have 3 good embryos, and we are being very selective. We're selecting the best of the best. 3 good embryos comparing to the 9 in the previous hospital. I was like, whoa, 3 embryos only. Okay. I'm pretty sure they're good. So 2 of them went in the freezer, and 1 was put inside of me on September 23rd, 2019. We drove back home in the car. I told Federica, I was like, this is it, right? I mean, now we're going home, and we have to wait for 2 weeks before we find out we were pregnant. And he was like, let's stay positive. We're in good hands. They know what they're doing. This feels so different than the previous treatment, previous doctors, previous years. I was like, you're right. So we went home. I was taking medicine to control my thyroid, to control my endometriosis, to control my antibodies. I was taking a lot of pills, I think 8 pills per day, but I was okay. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm calling to see if my results were in, my blood results. And she said, oh, just a moment, I'm gonna look for you. And I could hear her fingers on the keyboard, see what she was searching. And she was like, I could hear her, let me see, just a minute. Yes, Sarah, my heart. And I can feel it right now. My heart is beating so fast. I can relive that moment and how I felt. Federico and I were holding hands like this. Okay, Sarah, here are the results of your blood. You're pregnant. I wish I could describe to you how I felt hearing you're pregnant coming out of her mouth. Undescribable. I still get goosebumps. My heart is beating right now because I'm talking about it again. I started crying out loud, and the assistant was like, I'm so sorry, are you okay? I said to her, I was trying to catch my breath, and I said, yes, we've been trying for 6.5 years, and we're finally pregnant. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you, and I'm so glad that I'm the one to deliver the news. This is amazing. Congratulations. Yes, yes, you are pregnant. She kept repeating, you are pregnant, because she knew how long I was waiting to hear these words. I'm not going to cry. And she hung up, and Federico and I hugged each other for 5 minutes, and we were crying so hard, both of us, still not believing that we were actually pregnant. I held my belly and I was like, you're in here. You're actually growing. Like, you're here. And yeah, we were finally pregnant. And like, when I look at him, I see courage, I see love, I see hope, I see faith. All of these things that I've never lost during all these years, because I knew deep down, I knew that one day I would become a mother. And it's something that I cannot describe to you, despite all the negative results and every doctor telling me, you're fine, and and I wasn't pregnant all these years. Somehow, I believed that I would become a mother. I knew it. And I'm so glad that I listened to my inner voice. That voice inside of me telling me something is wrong, something is off, ask questions. Don't give up. Continue. Go Google. Go search somewhere else. Ask questions. I was questioning everything. I was questioning every single detail, every single treatment, every single doctor's idea. I was questioning it. I was asking question, why not? Why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And I'm so glad that I was so alert and so aware of my body and everything that I was believing in. It's very hard to accept the fact that I finally got pregnant after all these years because a doctor was determined to find the problem. And all these previous doctors didn't, because they believed in them, and they believed in their protocol, and they believed in what they studied, and they did not look outside their circle. They did not think outside the box. And that's very painful. And until the day, I'm having a hard time accepting it. But looking at Massimo, the only comfort that I can get out of this is the fact that it has to be him. Out of all these embryos, this one, it had to be Massimo. after all these years, all these embryos, it had to be Massimo. That's the only thing that's given me comfort. And I'm so glad that he's here. I love him. I'm in love with him. I cannot imagine my life without him. And every day when I look at him, I'm like, oh my God, you're really here. You're real. Like, you're really here, and I'm holding you and I'm loving you and you're here. And that's so beautiful. So if you're watching this and you're going through all these treatments and all these hormones, I can feel you. I have so much respect for you. Please don't give up. You know, it's very hard when you're in the middle of the treatments and when you're failing over and over again. You're upset, you're desperate, you're confused, but love yourself, because that's very important. Show yourself a lot of love and give your body a lot of attention and a lot of love, because it's fighting with you. Even though sometimes it feels like your body is not working with you, I promise you, your body is working with you, is doing what it's supposed to do. But sometimes it's just hard, and I know that. And it's unfair that you have to go through this, and it's unfair that you're struggling so hard to get something, you want so bad. I know that. I promise you, I know this. But don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Stay positive. Stay strong. And everything will be all right. No matter what the outcome is, I promise you everything will be all right. And yeah, you're strong. And I love you.